Are your judgments causing you suffering? So what do I mean by this? So when you judge something outside of you, it will usually cause like a different charge within, right? So either a negative charge or a positive charge. So what does that mean? So instead of you being in the middle where something is actually neutral, you'll lean toward kind of a positive charge or a negative charge. But the problem with this is when you charge something, then you lose control of it, right? You think it might be the opposite, but it's not. When you charge something, it means that you have to follow that line. So you'll get stuck in what we call a pendulum swing. So you go to the right or the left, right? So either you're on the left or the right, and that pendulum will make you keep going right, or it'll make you keep going left, for example. But what that does is it actually causes you suffering, if you think about it, if you really think about it. Because suffering is caused by kind of losing your own free will. So this card is interesting. So invisibility or authenticity. So what that means is when you judge something, when you basically you're attaching to something, you cannot come from your authentic self, right? So if you make a judgment about something or decide something, right, you can only lean that way, or else, it's out of line with who you are, and that's not true. So your authentic self, like your true self, is not polarized. It's not from the matrix. It's not from here. It encompasses all things, right? And so when we learn to move above the playing field, move above it, and try to see things more as neutral, then that means that we won't suffer when we get stuck in the pendulum swing. So once you get stuck in the pendulum swing, you also get kind of a swing one way or a swing the other way. So you kind of get thrown off sometimes, which causes pain, right? So when you're judging things as, I don't like to use the words good or bad, or like this is better than that kind of thing. Really sit with, well, do I really actually believe this or feel this? Have I been taught this? Has someone else told me that this is the way it's supposed to be? What do I think it's supposed to be? So a lot of times we need to step outside of our, character, right, of the ego that we're playing here, really, and try to see it from a perspective of your true self, like basically your higher self, your whole self. And then you'll see how judgments will actually cause you pain. It'll cause you suffering because it makes you do things that you wouldn't necessarily want to do within your authentic self, right? Because I said, like when you're polarized, you don't have a choice. So if you have a charge, you have to follow the charge. It's how it works, right? So the way to be authentic, that's why invisibility is interesting, because our essence is more, is nothingness. It's an energy, right? It's not a form, right? So when you come into ego, you have an identity, it follows form, right? So eventually you'll have a form. So, and then you'll take on roles, right? So the ego does that, and it's supposed to in this place, right? So that is what it is. But trying to be less leaned in any way will actually give you true freedom and insight as to what is best for you. So, because we always have to follow our own line, we have to follow what our own essence wants us to do, because we all have whatever we came here to do. But if you don't get rid of that noise from other people's opinions, from what you're taught, from the people you even associate with at times, you don't even know if you're living what you really want to live anymore. Right? So a good exercise is, I always try to pretend like I step back and I look at it with my eyes, like I'm looking at it from outside, and be like, how do you really see this? Like, and is this something you want to keep seeing that way? Especially if it's causing you suffering. If it's causing you suffering, it means you're attached to something that doesn't serve you, right? It means that the idea of something in your mind is not serving your highest good, right? It's not serving your higher self. It wants you to wake up, really. So when we get polarized and we get swung back and forth, and when you feel like you're elated one day and you get a good crash the next day, and you're like, why does this always happen? It's because of the charge. It has to release the charge, right? It's one of those things where our discomfort, our displeasure, and our pain can actually direct us to where we're meant to go, right? Where we're meant to be, So try not judging yourself for having those moments where, because I had them too, where you get elated or you're excited, then you just crash the next day. Don't judge it, okay? So you're learning about charge is really important when it comes to Hermetic principles. To understand that charge, is very important in teaching us like where we're leaning in this realm, in the polarized realm, in the dual realm, right? Because we're in 3D. So if we're in higher realms, it's a different story. But so sit with yourself and be like, if there's an area of your life that you're struggling with, ask yourself, what do you actually think about this? What am I judging it as? Good, bad, whatever. Positive, negative, maybe that's a better way of putting it, because then it neutralizes even that idea. But you know what I mean? And then go, is this true? Does it have to be true? Is it always true? And if it's not always true, then it ain't true here. Do you know what I mean? An ultimate truth can never be disproven, right? So do that exercise, and what you'll do, even by doing that exercise, is you're actually depolarizing yourself. And a real magician, someone who does alchemy, magic, whatever you want to call it, energy work, energy healing, understands the power of being depolarized. So then you can choose from an authentic place, from your authentic self. This is essential for your growth. So I'm hoping that when you look into things like alchemy, hermetics, the ultimate goal is for your own growth, your own spiritual growth, and understanding or understanding of who you really are. So practice that. Look where you're judging, and seeing is a time for you to let that go. Because if it's not serving your highest good, what is it serving for? What are you doing it for? So I'm Lady Grace. I'm an oracle reader, rune reader, energy healer as well. If you like a real deep dive in your unconscious, if you're not quite sure why you're in a loop, you just can't see it, I would recommend a rune reading, a 9-world rune reading, which I have on my Etsy shop right now, because it goes into all of the minds. It goes in the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind, where we don't know what kind of is in there, which can be causing you suffering because of a loop that you're in that you really can't see. And it's okay if you don't see it, but sometimes we use cards. So the reason why we use them is so we can make the unconscious conscious. So it's not always comfortable. But if you want to grow, that's how it is, right? So if you're interested in that, it's in my Etsy shop. The link will be in my bio. And hopefully this helped. And have a good day.